Boom.
Yeah, you
Get a
got
notice.
it.
Okay. Team chat.
Oh, I always use my phone and I was like, why isn't it the touch screen working? But it's not a touch screen.
Mhm.
Right.
Mm.
Okay. Do I start yet?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here we are. So this is for me a lot of fun because I've had a major technological development, which I will explain as we go. So co-housing Houston resilience. All right. So part of resilience is the environment, right? Yes, it is. Heads up. Do you all know about the Citizens Environmental Coalition?
Now I
I
do.
do.
Okay, so it's cechouston.org. So you can subscribe to the newsletter. It's weekly. It lets you know what's going on kind of in the environmental realm. We have over 100 environmental organizations that, are member organizations. And so we're always, letting people know with this weekly newsletter, kind of what's going on, what events are there. And we also have a green jobs webpage, which is really pretty helpful for anybody who's trying to get a job in that realm. Okay, and then my website is Code Green Houston. So this is the top of the website. So we have this rain barrel sale going on, and then I have these clickable pages with green strategies. Okay, and so as we scroll down, there's a few more strategies. I don't know how many people have been over to see it, but over to the right is kind of a photo of pretty much the main area. It's about 3,000 square feet, and I have over 50 displays of green building technologies. Okay, it's
Hey,
pretty
Steve,
cool place.
can you move on the bottom right-hand corner, it's showing the participants like us. Can you scoot it out of the way because it's kind of blocking on your screen share? Or you could, I think you can minimize it. I don't know if it lets you do that on your view.
It's not blocking mine.
It's not? That's weird.
Now it
Because
is.
you're on your phone. So
No, I'm on my computer.
Oh, you are? Okay. That's all right, Steve. If it's too hard, don't worry about it.
Well,
Might-
iPad is somewhat not that helpful sometimes. Okay, so anyway, as you scroll down more, we have these 4 quick links, and I got these arrow pointing to the DIY home energy audit. Okay, and then right below that is the resilient home guideline, which we are going to get to, but I want to go through the DIY home energy audit first. So this is what it looks like. You can download it. And the first thing you do is add up all your energy bills for the past year. Okay. So if you want to get into how much you're spending at your house and really kind of minimize that energy bills, this is what you want to do. So then it's a checklist. Okay, and you walk around the house and you just kind of do things like this. Okay, check to see if you can sense airflow through the spaces below. So you're kind of looking for caulking, weather stripping, go to the outside, kind of look at stuff. So there's this, we're not going to go through it all right now. I just want to kind of just breeze through the various components. So then you want to check the insulation, see if you can find out how much insulation you have in your house, and all these interesting things about that. And then there's checking through your electronics and appliances, and then checking to see if they're Energy Star rated, and taking a look at your refrigerator. That's what's on 24/7, 365. So what's that story? Then we want to look at the windows, and you have to really download and do this. I'm not going through this as much in particular as we're going to go through the resilient home guideline. Okay, So then check for water sense, low flow shower heads, which we'll have in co-housing. And then there's additional information. The Energy Star website is fantastic. I just updated this because there was a couple of links that were bad. So, and then there's the typical energy saving tips that you've probably heard a million times, but they're all still good, and you know you can still do them. And there's people out there who don't know these tips, so it's always good to have them. That's at the end. And then keeping in mind the ceiling fans are fantastic. They can actually make you feel as much as 4 degrees cooler than you really are. And they hardly take any energy, so that's a good thing. And then this pie chart, I worked with CenterPoint a long time ago when I first came with the city, and kind of got this pie chart so people can see. A lot of people are very concerned about the walls. Oh my gosh, I don't think I have any insulation in my walls. Okay, time out. Your walls are not as essential as the other pieces of the pie. Okay, so we have the window heat gain coming through the windows. The best thing you can do is put films on there if you don't have any. Leakage, which is what that checklist was all about, is 20%. Appliance generated heat gain, like your refrigerator, your dryer's worse than refrigerator, but I mean the dryer's not being run nearly as often as your refrigerator is, so it all kind of melts together. And then there's heat coming in through your attic. Okay, and that's huge. All right, so saving energy, why is that important? It saves you money. It lowers your demand for coal-fired power. This is a great book that I have called Over, and on one of the pages is none other than the W.A. Parish Power Plant, which is a huge power plant for the Houston area. And that big black area in the middle of the photo is their coal field, which is fed by 3 mile-long train loads of coal every day. And of course, the worst thing about coal is all the toxins it pumps into the air. And then like the second worst thing is all the carbon dioxide is pumping into the air. So it's terrible. If there's any voice we could ever get, we should be complaining and complaining and complaining to NRG to change out the coal fired to at least gas and move on down the road. So then, like I was saying, right below the home energy audit is the resilient home guidelines. So we're going to be taking a look at that right now. So this is the page 1. What is a resilient home? There's no simple answer. And the goal of this guideline is to enhance your understanding of your home's resiliency to help you make choices to improve your situation. Okay. Some of these strategies are costly and some are not. Some need to be in the original construction. So boo-hoo, might not be able to do those, but some can be retrofitted. Yay. Some are behavioral checklists. So it's not about your house, it's about how you live in your house. And all these strategies are additive. Okay. So you do as much as you can, maybe you do some later, whatever. And then you can feel free to visit the more extensive City of Houston Resilience Plan if this guide leaves you feeling unfulfilled. Okay, this is what the cover looks like. It's 188 pages. Now, in all fairness, some of them are pictures. Okay, so it's not that bad, but let's just say it's over 100 pages. Okay, and this guideline is fantastic. All right, so, and this is available online. I don't have a link to it at the moment, but I can get it to you if you really want to get into it. So at any rate, a resilient home allows you to prepare for emergencies, shelter in place for a period, and quickly recover. So I think people understand the quickly recover part. And notice the houses that are prepared for emergencies are going to have a much quicker recovery period, right? So yes, you need to prepare for emergencies. Yes, you can, if it's going to be a direct hit for the hurricane of the century and we can evacuate, that's great. My sister evacuated and she lives in Sarasota, and when that last hurricane came through, she went over to Fort Lauderdale. So evacuation is good. She just had some minor roof damage, and so that's great. She was pretty resilient. I don't think she's ever looked at this, but that's okay. So at any rate, resilient home.
I have a question. So
Yeah.
are we using all these strategies in our construction?
Quite a few. Quite a
Good.
few. And that's why I'm glad you asked that question, because that's what I want co-housing people to be thinking about. And so right off the bat, durability, okay, flood proofing or raised floor construction. Okay, so we are 2 feet minimum above the base flood elevation. So you're gonna be walking into your house and you are where you need to be. And we're not in a floodplain either. So that's fantastic. All right. We are building this to have all the wind resistance and natural stormwater mitigation potential that we can, landscape and tree protection while reducing structural and exterior damage. So our trees are going to be pretty small for a while, and we're not going to have to worry too much about them being a problem. But, you know, at some year in the future, you know, that's going to be kind of a maintenance like issue. When I say issue, you know, trees need to be maintained just like anything else. All right, so then energy efficiency, using less energy for comfort and survivability. So this is kind of extended resilience, like resilience of, you know, the whole region if people are using less energy. When you are, there's some advantages to having a very efficient house though. For instance, if you don't need much power and you have, there's some solar and battery powered generators that can, you know, if your house isn't so big, you know, you can use a generator like we're doing at co-housing to
I
not
have one.
good. So that's very important. And even if you can't run the entire house, if you can run some of the house, you know, that's important for a temporary situation. And then kind of the next one, mitigation of chronic stressors and acute shocks. So chronic stressors, believe it or not, I like that about the resilience plan, is they really got onto that. Where, you know, things are getting hotter. I have a new display at the center about the urban heat island effect. And so that's getting to be kind of a thing. And then there's always the air quality question mark that comes up. Oh my gosh, you know, are we having a bad air day or what? And then another chronic stressor is long commute times. And then there's more severe storms and climate shocks, which are kind of the shock things. Okay. All right. So now this is the big key piece of the resilient home guideline, the diagnostic toolkit. So I worked with the Committee on the Environment of the American Institute of Architects chapter here to fully vet and develop this. Okay, so this was a team effort. And what we have is 8 questions. You can see the numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then there's a calculator box. And then there's 4 answers in those questions. And so what really was phenomenal about this, I saw this in some other publication somewhere, and it wasn't about resilience, it was some other kind of diagnostic checklist, but I just went, wow, nobody is ever going to take a 32 question survey, but they would look at this. And so it's all about the graphic look. So this just looks like, wow, this is no big deal. And that's what I love about it. So now we're going to go over the questions. Basically, what you're going to do, what the person doing the diagnostic toolkit is, they would respond to these answers, just saying if they do them or not. And then you use your score to diagnose where you are currently on a resilient journey. Okay. Now, so then there's even cooler stuff after this, but let's start doing this, because it's followed up by all 8 questions with each of the 4 answers explained and links to supporting web pages for more granular information. So not everybody wants to get into the weeds with all this stuff, and some people are just going to be curious about a couple of things and maybe not all of them. And that's why I love this, because, and some people aren't going to do it at all. It's like, okay, I answered the checklist and I'm done. I'm gone. Fine, you know, but it's there for the people who want it. That's what I like about this. All right, so let's start off. Right off the bat, we have a different number of points for these items. Now, the reason for that is because some things are more resilient than others. And it's a teaching device because everybody is going to figure out, oh, wait a minute, 4. I have an emergency plan with my family and neighbors. Are you prepared for a disaster at home? Question number 1. So that's a 4. And 3 is I have a cell phone that can retrieve emergency text alerts and maintain a current list of emergency contacts. So basically the takeaway is the most important thing to have is an emergency plan with your family and neighbors. We will have that at co-housing, okay? That just comes with the co-housing. So we're all gonna get a 4, all right, when we move into co-housing. So the question is, you know, what are you doing at your house right now for this? And it'll be fun when we move in and then we can take this again. All right, and so, and we're gonna have all of these because we're gonna have a disaster checklist. You know, we're gonna have a stockpile of necessities. It's gonna be crazy. And then the first thing first, my insurance is up to date and applicable for medical, life, and property needs. Okay, so there was the first one. Now, number 2 question, or question 2: is your home prepared for a disaster? So all of a sudden, what? 8642? Why is that doubled? Well, this is really important stuff. So notice number 8. I have an the 8.1. I have an elevation certificate and my house is above base flood elevation. Didn't I just get done saying we have that at co-housing? But do you have it at your house? Okay, then for 6 points, I have a backup generator along with all other equipment above BFE. Bing, we have that at co-housing. I know for sure my house is built to withstand hurricane winds. Bing, we have that for co-housing. My hot water pipes are insulated and they're not in my attic, crawl space, or garage. Bing, we have that in co-housing, okay? So then, is your yard prepared for a disaster? Now, how in the world can a yard, hurt you? Well, you could have tree branches smash into your house from your own tree, right? Okay. So for 4 points, I have inventoried, trimmed, and secured all trees, poles, and electrical items. 3, I have healthy soil, which can absorb and hold more rain and promotes healthy landscaping. People might not know that. Okay. I have a pervious paving or a rain garden, which can detain rainwater temporarily during storms. That's a really good thing to have. We're going to have that. Our ditch is a rainwater collection strategy, and our parking lot is permeable, and we'll be able to store a lot of water under there. And I have a water smart planting, trees suitable for Houston, and a vegetable garden. And we're going to have all of those in co-housing. All right. So then, does your house reduce summer heat stress? Yeah, my house is a survivable place that allows me to function without power for 5 days. Now that is a total stretch. Okay. I mean, how many places can you function without power for 5 days? We've had to live through that before. I mean, Hurricane Ike was a real drag. So, but anyway, so most of them are, you can open the windows, it'll be uncomfortable, but you can function. I have plenty of attic insulation to keep the heat out of the conditioned space. So this prompts people to go check, right? What if you don't? Well, then you should get some because it's going to save you a lot of money, which was also, this is reinforcing the do-it-yourself home energy audit, because that was, and the insulation part was quite charged with things to do about that. My AC is high efficiency and right-sized for all the indoor space, saving me money. So that's very important. And then finally, for one point, I have operable windows, screens, and ceiling fans. Okay. So kind of going over all of these, because it won't take that long. And you know how it is. If you don't go over things, then people will go, yeah, and they won't go over it. So does your house help with energy bill stress? Now, this is another one where the points were doubled. So we have 2 questions with double points. Main reason we did that is to get, with the 8 questions, was to get them up to 100 points total. I know that just doesn't, that's okay, but still, it's always good. People can identify with number of points out of 100 instead of number of points out of 80, let's say. So it's a lot easier to think in percent, right? Okay. So I have completed a home energy audit to see my energy bill vulnerabilities. Right off the bat, there's reinforcing my do-it-yourself home energy audit. I have Energy Star appliances, which was in there, exhaust fans and lighting to conserve energy. I have solar panels for power or solar hot water panels or both. Now you might think, wait, Steve, solar panels ought to be, more points than that. Well, the point is not everybody can do solar panels, and that solar panels, while they're good, putting solar panels on an inefficient house that doesn't have the first 2 points, first 2 answers is, you're kind of killing your solar panels, because if your house was super efficient, then, maybe your solar panels take the entire house off the grid. Okay, so that's kind of why that was not ranked at the highest one. Then finally, my water heater is a heat pump type, tankless or high efficiency gas. So water heaters are a big thing. They do take a lot of energy, and co-housing is going to have very efficient water heaters. So get ready for that. So then number 6 is, does your house help with indoor air quality? So this is very important. This is very resilient. You don't want to have unhealthy air. You don't want mold. You don't want high particulates. So, how is your house helping with indoor air quality? So the most important thing you can do is have a properly sized and configured kitchen exhaust fan, okay? Because there's fumes that are created in your kitchen that you want to go outside. That's all there is to it, especially if you have a gas range, which you won't have in co-housing. But, that's very important for most houses in Houston. So the next one is, I have a fresh air intake for my AC. This is what all new homes need to have. Modern homes should have a fresh air intake. Some of the old style homes just recirculate the air and assume you're going to open your doors and windows once in a while, which is kind of true, but it's just better to have the fresh air intake. And then I have high performance air filters, change them on schedule, and vacuum regularly. So air filters and vacuuming are very good for indoor air quality. And then finally, I have exhaust fans in my bathroom and check for excess moisture frequently. So that's pretty normal. Okay, then we have, does your house help with work commute and isolation stress? Who would have thought of that? Well, co-housing is completely all over the place, way better with isolation stress. We're not going to have any isolation stress in co-housing now, are we? But, that doesn't speak to your commute. Although, we're pretty close in. So unless somebody has to commute way the heck out, our location is going to be fairly helpful, in that regard. So the first most weighted one is, I have access to transit and ride sharing programs and use them regularly. So transit is 1.5 blocks away, right? Or is it 2.5? And that's going to be fantastic. My neighborhood is very walkable and bikeable to services, parks, and retail, which the east part of the town we are in is absolutely out of this universe. Our sidewalks are in reasonable shape. Yes, they are. And our curb and gutters or open ditches are clear, which they will be super clear when we get done with construction. And I feel relatively safe walking around in my neighborhood. Well, that remains to be seen. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully we'll feel, relatively safe walking around. Then there's kind of an other slash, so even in the question, are there other household strategies? So I have a plan to reduce my household carbon footprint with strategies for home and car. I have a maintenance schedule for my household maintenance items. We're going to have a maintenance schedule because I'll be working on that. I don't use toxic chemicals in my house and yard, and we won't be using toxic chemicals in co-housing. And I'm actively engaged in my community or religious organization. And we're going to be very actively engaged in our community, that's for sure. And so, meanwhile, it's down at the bottom, but it's pretty easy to see when you're looking at the page. Select all that apply to you. So one would select all of them. And if you don't do them, you don't select them. But it's not just like one answer for each question. No, it's all of them that apply. And then we have this totaling function over here, and you try to get to your cumulative total points. Now, the very cool thing is that I'm finally having this digitized. And so I will ultimately put a link in the chat, which I haven't done yet, so that you can take this and actually send the results back to the city so that we can collect metadata on all this kind of stuff. So that's going to be really cool for my planning department, all that kind of stuff. So I need down below that, then I have a quote, my green quote of the month. So this one was kind of fun. It's a little long. I'll kind of move on, but I do like to have environmental books featured. I have a book. See, I have a green book tab right there, which is kind of fun. And then there's the events for the Green Building Resource Center. And if were you to click the green books, this is my fun little page here. These are my top 25 books over the years that are authors. Some of them have multiple books. And then I have, listed down below, which I don't have showing on the screen. But for some reason, we really like to kind of incentivize reading fiction and, I don't know, current events. And I think that environmental books are kind of under promoted. So I'm trying to do something about that at the Green Building Resource Center. And then again, there's kind of a larger picture of what it looks like. I have really fun and interesting displays, and then I'm there to answer questions as well. And this is my favorite is the one that I did with a talented intern about the story of stuff. It's kind of my shrine to Annie Leonard. All kinds of cool things to go there. So at any rate, now I'm kind of getting into sustainability, which is a huge component of resilience. And if we get down to running out of time, we can just stop. This is kind of like gravy. The big thing was to go through the resilient home guideline. So
okay, so Steve, on the score, the home score, what is the top score? I lost track on the numbers. Like what?
100.
100.
100.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm living in a giant apartment complex right now, as my temporary home until we move into co-housing. And a lot of those questions I didn't even know the answer to, because I don't know how things are maintained, or I'm pretty sure they're using chemicals for the plants. I'm sure they're not conserving water and things like that. So where I didn't know, I put a 0. So going
that would
with
be the right thing to do. If
yeah,
you don't
my
know,
score was 23 then. So
yeah. So when you go to my website and look at the whole thing, right after that is kind of the scoring. So 23
okay.
is 23 is 26 is kind of the cutoff for not so good to
Okay.
not bad, right? And then if you get over 50, actually over 60, it's like, wow, you really know what you're doing. And when we get into co-housing, we're all going to be over 60. I'll tell you that right now.
Steve, Sarah's in the waiting room. Can you let her in? Do you have a pop-up somewhere?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Here we go. Participants force and admit. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, Sarah. Maybe Sarah's muted. I didn't mute her.
Hi there.
Okay. Well, we just went through the resilient home guideline, Sarah, so you missed it. But that's okay. You'll be able to catch up. That'll be on your own time. And I've got this really cool beta right now so that you can fill it out digitally.
Okay. Yeah, she was listening from her car. They were driving.
Oh, okay, good.
And then I think they just switched over to a computer when they got home.
Yay. Good. All right. So now we're getting to the sustainability part. So basically, sustainability is the ability to exist constantly. Okay. But in the 21st century, it refers to the capacity for the biosphere and human civilization to coexist. So that's what we're all kind of worried about. So basically, we want to use resources below a level that our planet can provide in perpetuity and emit wastes below the level that our planet can safely absorb in perpetuity. Notice we didn't say don't use resources or don't emit waste. It's about scale, it's about balance. But we're way out of scale and way out of balance. So this YouTube, which we're not going to show tonight, forget shorter showers. It's 12 minutes. It's really great for getting your head wrapped around where we are with all of this. I did play it on a webinar, and it really helps you understand how business as usual is huge, and that for sustainability, your participation is needed in multiple ways, of which finding your voice really is paramount. But industry is the elephant in the room, not you. So let's keep this in mind. It's one of my favorite slides. As soon as I found it, it became one of my typical slides. How Earth made us. We are formulated to live on Earth, which we are degrading. Maybe we should stop that. Well, start to stop that in earnest. So another really great site, this Earth Day site. There's a link down at the bottom. The first Earth Day was in 1970. What's changed? FYI, I was in high school and I just went to my 50th high school reunion. So Earth's vital signs. Let's just take a look at these trends, okay? Global tree cover loss is going up. So that means we're losing global tree cover. Ocean heat change. The ocean is getting hotter. Minimum Arctic sea ice is decreasing. And glacier thickness change is decreasing. So temperature anomalies are going up. Ocean acidity, but now pH going down means it's getting more acid. And then sea level change is getting higher. Carbon dioxide parts per million is going up. Methane parts per billion is going up. And nitrous oxide parts per billion is going up. Energy trends. You know, we're still using more oil. Coal is kind of maybe peaking, and gas is still going, and solar and wind is going. So hooray, but it's way down there. And then there was this dip, which was what? COVID. So nobody wants to get out of this whole thing and like it was COVID. That's a terrible way to, you know, have a better carbon footprint. Anyway, it's not your fault, but it's still an epic problem. When in doubt, check out EPA. Just throwing that out there. So we've got more plastic than fish. That's not sustainable. I shop, therefore I am. I got one of these prints. I have it at the Green Building Resource Center. I just love that. That's not sustainable. Why do we keep doing this? Why do we keep doing this? Well, we keep doing this because industry influences government, and this is cheaper for industry. And because we work for industry and want to keep our jobs, we're between a rock and a hard place. Then there's this. This was such a great presentation. I asked the guy if I could use it. He said, yeah, it's whenever you want. Okay, so this is our region in 1980. Okay, ready? 1990. Okay, ready? 2000. Ready? 2010. 2020. Projected to 2030 and 2040. You know, I like seeing the purple part. That's dense, that's density. So the fact that we're going to have a little more density in town is kind of good. But we're carving out all that kind of nature and messing it up. And it just keeps going. So there's that. Anyway, how many stop and goes do we need? And is this expansion any good? And now a word from our sponsors. Now, everybody's going to love this. Get ready. This is a lot of fun. This is from the Crash Course. Great book. And how much work is embodied in a gallon of gasoline, our favorite substance of them all? Well, if you put a single gallon in a car, drove it away from your home until the gas ran out, and then got out and pushed the car home, you'd find out exactly how much work a gallon of gasoline can do. It turns out that a gallon of gas has the equivalent energy of somewhere between 350 and 500 hours of human labor. Given that a gallon of gas can perform that much human work, how much value would you assign it? How much would 350 to 500 hours of your hard physical labor be worth to you? $4? $10? This is what we mean by cheap fossil fuel. That is what we mean. So then there's the top environmental book was Silent Spring, 1962, New York Times bestseller, kind of kicked off the environmental movement. Didn't know this till only 5 years ago. She died of cancer 2 years after she published that book. So she was a victim. Anyway, Americans think that recycling is sustainability. Industry is consuming the earth so that we can have a great lifestyle. We are programmed to consume what industry makes. This next slide shows what we think most about, what we can control. Okay, this is like the best slide I ever found ever. I assume it's 100 based, but at any rate, so numero uno is recycling. Then there's reducing waste, and then conserving water. And now we're starting to really get down there. Reduce energy use. Okay, that's numero uno, but really people want to just recycle. Limit your carbon footprint. Only eat sustainable foods. Use organic products. Composting is way down there. Purchase air purifiers. Live in a green building, and donate to a nonprofit, non-governmental organization. So this is just kind of like, this is where people's heads are at. And this is why the topic of sustainability always gravitates to recycling, right? Because 60 out of 100, and the next one is down below 50. Okay, so the chasing arrows symbol, right? This is a real chasing arrows. Manufacturer, marketer, consumers, municipality, hauler, and processor, okay? It's really a hexagon. Recycling is a flawed system. Manufacturers just want to make. Marketers just want to sell. Consumers, really, we just want to consume. I mean, come on. Do we have to research everything? Cities just want to remove waste. Haulers just want to haul. And the processors, the MRFs for materials recycling facilities, they just want to sort. Okay. Everybody just wants to do what they do. And the manufacturers just do not seem to be caring about the downstream issues of the products past delivery to the consumer. Okay. Maybe some do. Let's say 80-20 don't care. And then let's say they don't care enough. Meanwhile, there's more to divert than what we normally recycle. How about food waste? We'll be doing composting at co-housing. University of Houston, they are diverting one. This is a very, very large dining commons. They're like the largest restaurant, technically the largest restaurant in the city of Houston. They're diverting 5 to 6 tons per week of food waste. So they're really doing a great job. And why? It's because they have a certification. They went ahead and got a green restaurant certification. And in order to do that, you have to compost your food waste. So these certification things they can change behavior and make people do good things. So why is food waste, and composting good? Well, when you look at Project Drawdown, you see that in 2015, 38% of food waste was composted in the US. So that means we know how to do this. 38%, not too bad, but not great. And the reason why it's significant is down below. For every 1 million metric tons of organic waste that decompose, 469 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent greenhouse gases in the form of methane are released. Okay. Composting, the conversion of such waste into a useful soil amendment, reduces those emissions by more than 50%. So that's the big deal about composting compared to just throwing it in the trash and having it go to the landfill, is you can reduce the methane production in the landfill by 50%, not all, but of, your choice of your material, you can reduce the methane release by composting it at your house by 50%. So that really is significant. And you don't have to drive it around. It stays on your property. It turns into compost, which is a very useful fertilizer. And so there's just a host of benefits with doing a little elbow grease and composting your food waste.
So Steve, does throwing my compost over the fence for the cows to eat it count?
Yeah, that counts. That really counts, because that, nature will do it.
Yeah, because they poop and we use that.
That's right. That's right. So now here's an interesting thing. We have these actually compostable clamshells, for instance. But like, you can get these if you go to Nico Nico's, okay? But they're totally dependent on a composting system. So without backyard composting or drop-off location or curbside pickup system, it just goes in the trash. So thank you, Nico Nico's, but it's better if there's some sort of end game for this. So what we're at co-housing, we'll be able to compost these things. So we're going to be telling everybody, when you get your takeout, all the ones that are biodegradable, we're going to biodegrade. So that'll be a fun thing. So at any rate, the food waste.
Question real
Yeah.
quick. What about those, like, I've seen plastic utensils that say that they're compostable, like you could buy them at Sprouts or places like that. But
Yeah.
how compostable are things like that? I've also seen plastic bags that say that they're compostable, like they're made of plant cellulose or some plant
Right.
thing.
What you have to look for is if they say backyard compostable.
Ah, okay.
Okay. I have tried to compost the rigid bioplastic cutlery. And see, I don't do it as much as what the industrial scale composters do. So when they have windrows that are 20 feet tall and their temperatures are, 40 degrees more than what we're doing, it really takes that stuff down. But me, I just do it, I did it one time, 30 years ago, and when my 30-year-old was a baby, and it was just too much work. So, I don't want to do that.
How long did it take, Steve? How long did it take you?
Well,
like,
it doesn't take that
to
long.
do it
if you
yourself?
Do it right. It
Mhm.
it really shortens the time span, but you're out there every day. And I may be getting into it, when I retire, and because I'll be able to get there every day. But, it takes really grinding everything down to a minimum size and turning it all the time and taking the temperature and worrying about it and, and all that. Okay. That's how you get it to the right temperatures. Work. And that's just kind of like not what I wanted to do all these years. So the sacrifice wasn't that big. So, you just can't do these rigid bioplastics. Now, I think for instance, I'm going to be getting these cellophanes. I got a new one just a couple of weeks ago. It's made out of potatoes, and that's backyard compostable. It says, so I'll be trying that out. So, but in lieu of ceramic.
Well, and I'm wondering, are we starting to see any traction at all with the concept of this circular economy, where the companies that make these products are required to consider the total life cycle of their product from creation to disposal? Jackie Chan, the actor, has done amazing work in this space, and I don't see, he's Chinese, right? He's doing a lot of this in China, which is great. He's funded huge projects and continues to fund. It's a thing called Mini Whiz. If you haven't heard of it, I'll put it in the chat. He's done amazing work, but I don't see it anywhere. Like, and I just found it on the EPA website. But are we getting any traction with that kind of thing? That you
Well,
know of? Do you know what I'm even
Yeah, I
referring
do.
to?
And we kind of are here. In fact, I'm going to talk about in a couple of slides. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought it up. So at any rate,
And I'm sorry, I know we're talking about food waste now. One of my questions is like, when you do get a container that is, supposed to be compostable, I mean, I know you have to clean it out a little bit, but is there something that I can do with that? Like, I mean, I put it in the recycle. I don't try to compost it necessarily. Should I be doing that? Like,
if you get a compostable clamshell, you don't have to clean it out and just put it out in the compost.
No.
I mean, that's what I
Okay.
do with all of ours. Bam, I just put it out there and it goes. It completely goes.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, but anyway, the thing about food waste is it's really a kind of upstream. So food waste is starting to get wasted from the very beginning with agribusiness. So it's a lot more than when you are, darn, I didn't quite get that apple eaten, so I got to throw it out. That's actually more like composting. When it gets down to the very end, you throwing something away, the food waste goes way back and it's huge. So anyway, back to diverting more. So we need to be diverting household hazardous waste. So I'll be collecting that in co-housing, and we'll make sure that anything, if there's any toxic anythings, we'll be diverting that, because that should not be going to the landfill. It should be special. And you can't recycle it. That's a real drag, but you have to keep it out of landfill. And C&D waste, construction demolition waste, we won't be doing too much of that in co-housing, but that's a thing. And batteries, I just heard, by the way, that IKEA is taking alkaline batteries, so I can't wait to check that out. Next time somebody goes to IKEA, let's find out. And then meanwhile, cardboard is highly recycled and closed loop. That's a very big success story. It's what all materials need to do. Okay, so as far as, is this going on, Sarah? This is, but it's kind of a low lift. And so why is it important? Well, in the past 50 years, humans have consumed more resources than in all previous history. So we're getting really good at consuming resources. This is what's going on with products. We only see 5 to 10% of it with everything we buy. What we don't see is like the below the waterline of an iceberg. We're not seeing how much waste is going on from the very get-go, from extraction to manufacturing, and then finally it gets to the store and we buy it. Okay, so this is what's huge. This is why if we don't buy stuff and there's no market for stuff and they stop making it, then it goes back to the beginning and there's just less planetary destruction for everything that's not being made. So now do you understand why reduce and reuse are more important than recycling? Okay. Invisibly to consumers, industry is consuming the earth so we can have a great lifestyle. If consumer demand dropped, fewer products would be made. When fewer products are made, way less industrial waste is made. But I mean, our economy is built on consumption. We aren't working on solving that problem very fast. Okay. So what can I say? This is kind of the EPA pie chart.
Wow.
Which is why I work on green building. I talk about waste. The only reason I talk about waste is because that other chart, where when people just think that sustainability is all about recycling, but waste is only 3% of global greenhouse gas emissions. It is nothing. And meanwhile, we have building operations and we have industry. I mean, that iceberg is the big yellow thing there. And then transportation is huge. So that's what we need to kind of keep in mind when we start worrying about, it's kind of like, then why recycle? Well, okay, because that's what everybody's thinking about. what can I say? At any rate, emissions, significant carbon dioxide emissions are from power plants, which power buildings and industry, even though the buildings don't emit them directly, okay? So looking at this, the blue and the yellow, that power is all coming from power plants, okay? Natural gas, methane, right? Emissions are emitted from wellhead to building equipment and landfills, and gas-fired equipment emit carbon dioxide, and any methane leakage is 25 times worse than CO2. Then, just FYI, refrigerants are thousands of times worse when emitted in the atmosphere than carbon dioxide. So refrigerants, sidebar, really bad. This is what the Houston's greenhouse gas emissions for their sustainability plan and their resilience plan, this is what they're looking at. And again, energy is huge, transportation is huge, and waste is not huge, okay? So the more energy we can save and the more transit we can take, we're doing way better than this waste thing. So seriously, 20 slides about solid waste and recycling for 3% of greenhouse gas production. Let's get to the heart of the carbon matter. This is EPA on household energy. Now to the left, those 4 bars are all homes. The next one with the arrow pointing to it are the single family detached, and then single family attached, apartments 2 to 4 units, and apartments 5 or more units, and mobile homes. Now the green, okay, is south. See top right, northeast, midwest, south, and west. Okay, everybody got that? Now, the single family detached southern house uses the most energy of anything on the page. Now, to feel good about co-housing, notice where the green bar is on apartments 5 or more units. So right off the bat, just by moving to co-housing, we're going to be using a lot less, or we're going to be emitting a lot less greenhouse gases and using less consumption. So anyway, keep in mind 16,000 kilowatt hours annually for a single family detached house. So I'm teeing you up for a little math exercise here, okay? So AC matters, people. We talked about the do-it-yourself home energy audit. This is why Southern homes use more energy than all other US homes. Co-housing will outperform single family. All right, now EPA has this cool little greenhouse gas equivalency calculator. This is a lot of fun. So I brought in the little chart just to show that we're going to type in 16,000 kilowatt hours used, and we've checked emissions data. Okay, ready? So we convert the data. So that average Southern house emits 6.9 metric tons of carbon dioxide a year. Everybody see that up at the top?
Mm.
And then interestingly, that's about 1.5 gasoline powered passenger vehicles. So, you know, driving around in cars, you know, is a thing, people. All right, now you keep going, and here, top left, this is equivalent to greenhouse gas emissions avoided by 2.4 tons of waste recycled instead of landfill. Okay, so now we're going to do the math. Okay, this is really fun. So if the household recycled 2.4 tons of waste annually, they would offset their energy use. Okay, 2.4 tons. Now, down at the bottom, I put in from EPA, per capita municipal solid waste, MSW is municipal solid waste generation, increased from 4.5 pounds per person per day in 2017 to 4.9 pounds per person per day in 2018. So we're kind of going the wrong direction, okay? But 4.9 pounds per person per day. So here's the math part. I had to immediately go to the Census Bureau to get the number of persons per household, okay? So we have 4.9 pounds of waste a day times 2.6 people per household is 12.74 pounds per day per household, okay? So then we multiply that by 365 days to get to pounds per year, okay? 4,650. So then we divide that by 2,000, so we can have tons. Let's get to tons. 2.33 tons per year per household of waste. Okay, now over to the left in that little light green box, I didn't put in the pie chart that shows from EPA that 23% of waste is recycled. Okay, in America, that's the average. Okay, so we take our 2.33 tons, we multiply by 23.6%, and we get 0.55 tons per year per household recycled. Okay. Now notice down bottom left, remember when we said 2.4 tons of waste recycled would take the house, would offset the house's energy use, but we are only recycling 0.55 tons. Okay. So let's summarize. The average Southern house is 6.9 tons of greenhouse gas per year emissions. Your average internal combustion engine vehicle, 4.6 tons of greenhouse gas per year emissions. Average recycling per house is 0.55 tons greenhouse gases avoided per year. And composting is even less, but that's based on the average. So the average household recycling story pales in comparison to the average household energy use story. We aren't going to recycle our way out of this climate crisis, which doesn't mean give up on recycling either. Now let's talk about solar. I've got two friends in Westview. One of them did 7.48 kilowatts of solar. And so he's avoiding 5.2 tons of greenhouse gases a year. So that just about takes that house, the average house, off. Not too bad, huh? And then another friend of mine put in 6.48 kilowatts, and she's offsetting 3.3 tons. Okay. So solar beats the pants off of recycling. And, you know, you could actually put enough solar on your house to take your house out, which is the whole idea. But anyway, down at the bottom, you can see that that's not free. I mean, you know, the 5.2 avoided there was $25,000 in 2018. And then the 6.48 kW array was 19,000.
I just spent 35.
Okay. Are you taking your house off?
My property in California, there's four houses on it, or not houses, but apartment. I have a tiny house and a barn with 2 apartments in the main house.
Very
So there's
cool.
enough to cover all 4.
Excellent. Well, that's what everybody wants. That's what they want the solar story to be. You're doing it. That's fantastic.
Now, Steve, how does that play into, like, I mean, I've been reading that Texas actually is leading California now in overall, like, renewable energy production. Even though, I mean, is that reality, or are they just blowing smoke? Like,
No,
I mean,
it's when they say renewable, they're talking about wind and solar. And
right.
Texas has amazing wind, absolutely amazing what we've done. So I don't think they're blowing smoke. California does have wind, but not as much as Texas does. And California has a lot of solar, but it looks like these wind farms that we do with these just magnificent wind turbines really generate a lot of power. So California, when they start putting up, if they do put up more turbines, they could, you know, it's a pretty big state. They got a lot of mountains. So, I mean, they could do it.
And a lot of wind.
And they have a lot of wind. So Texas is just really invested in a lot of wind turbines. So anyway, then here's this upcycle chart that I just love because it just makes so much sense. This is this whole idea of continuous improvement, right? So we start off, we're doing a little good, a lot of bad, and then we learn and we do less bad and more good, right? Isn't this great? So how long is this going to take? But this is what we've been doing. So if you're back to your question of, do I think we're getting anywhere towards the circular economy? No, we're blowing a lot of smoke. We just keep doing this. Now,
but I don't even think people know what it is. Like, I mean, most people don't. Like, I mean, so you know, what, and I've not really even seen, I mean, other than TED Talks and stuff like that. I haven't really seen, I mean, it always takes a long time to get the word out, right? I mean,
Yep.
and to get these concepts and ideas out. And I do think that the cost of a product should reflect, I mean, it's not rocket science, it should reflect the entire life cycle of the product, and that includes disposal.
Yes.
So.
And there is something to,
how-
there is something to do that, okay? And I think I have it in this slide deck. So here we're just, what climate change really means is all these things, okay? A lot of people just kind of want to bifurcate it into like one thing, but you know, it's a whole myriad of problems, and you know, and it's like death by a thousand cuts, not just one big giant, you know, hurricane or something like that. So anyway,
My
all these
favorite
things.
one is when they go, New York's gonna be underwater, well, why don't they just move?
Exactly.
I'm just
That's
like, are you kidding? Like Fiji will not be here much longer, so I want to go there before it sinks into the ocean.
yeah, true enough.
And then what do you do with the people? And I don't understand
Well,
how, I
this
mean, there's
actually, this
very
cartoon kind of
compelling,
tells it all, Sarah. This is what we do.
but there's some very compelling reports that are public
That people
that
don't read.
are generated by the US military as it relates to our national security.
Yeah.
That's right. And
And they've been producing those since the 80s.
I know. And
And
people
so
ignore.
well, but okay. But
That
I
first
guess
of all,
my,
they're not reading them. I mean, it's not like the military is putting, you know, a live copy at everybody's door, right? And then the people that do read it, you know, they're either like you and me, and they're concerned about it, and they, you know, look around for some way to do something about it, or they just this learned helplessness in this country is pretty amazing. So there's a zillion and one reasons why people just like don't do this. So anyway, speaking of inconvenient, have you noticed that even cutting back on single-use plastic is horribly inconvenient? So, you know, there's that. So anyway, let's do something then, Sarah, okay? And this was from my 2012 presentation, Reading Towards Sustainability. It's one of my favorites, out of Limits to Growth. Not unrelieved pessimism, nor sappy optimism, but the resolve to tell the truth about both the successes and failures of the present and the potentials and obstacles in the future. And above all, the courage to admit and bear the pain of the present while keeping a steady eye on a vision of a better future. And people will not admit and bear the pain of the present. They just won't. So anyway, what can one person do? Don't be one person. That's one of my favorite quotes. Kathleen Dean Moore. So take your pick, raise your voice or don't raise your voice, improve your argument. That's what I'm trying to do, is improve my argument. And anyway, maybe find your voice is more appropriate. Influence neighbors, local government, lawmakers, manufacturers, boycott, complain. Silence is tacit approval. And then my favorite, again, another favorite is Albert Einstein. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So there it is.
Oh, this was great.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Steve, by the way, you've got you have a scout signed up to be merit badge counselor for your 3 sustainability, was it sustainability, soil and water conservation, and what's your other one? I forget.
Yeah, I'll have to look.
Environmental science. Yep.
Yeah, so when did, so I'm waiting for that email. When did I
You
get it?
haven't gotten anything?
Here we go. No,
Um,
I got the Sam Houston Area Council e-Scouter newsletter. That's all I've got.
That's all you've got? Okay.
That means they don't have them in that, do they? They don't come in that, do they? Is there a, you got a thing? And no, I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, thank you. I'm gonna go.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Susan.
All right.
Hi,
Adios.
Susan.
Bye.
I want to send everybody that link though. I'll just do that afterwards by email.
Okay. Yeah, this was really good, and thank you for recording it. You can probably stop the recording now if you want.
Oh yeah, it's still going.
Driving, Steve.
Stop video, no. It still says recording. What is it?
I
Recording. Okay,
think you have-
stop.
So I love, Steve, like, and Susan, Steve and I are